Signs, sorcery. These things are no match for a fist to the face.
What's up, guys? Shadow of War, after the ending, theory, all that kind of stuff. I've made the video into two parts. I discuss what happened to Celebrimbor and then what happened to Talion. At least of my guesses. If you want to find out about Celebrimbor, click on the annotation on the left of the screen. If you just want to know about Talion, click on the right, and we're going to find out. Okay, first recap of what happened. You've probably already seen the ending, otherwise you wouldn't watch this video, but I'll recap it for you anyway, in case it's a long time ago. Okay, Celebrimbor gets caught by Sauron in the battle between Sauron, Eltariel, and Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor is then in a perpetual war with Sauron, which is the reason why the eye of Sauron switches from orange to blue all the frickin' time afterwards. Talion is presumably dead, but he becomes a Ringwraith. But he's not taken over by Sauron yet. So what he does is he fights the armies of Sauron and keeps them at bay in a stalemate. And basically, it ends with him becoming a true Ringwraith under the control of Sauron. And then he dies later on. And so do we see him in a field with very much light. Alright, Celebrimbor. We see the Eye of Sauron going boom. We see this small light, who is presumably Celebrimbor exiting this Eye of Sauron after Sauron died. With Celebrimbor, we can assume he may or may not go for Eltariel and Talion. Eltariel, he might not have any interest in because Eltariel failed during the fight with Sauron. She and Celebrimbor could not dominate Sauron. Therefore, she got her fingers cut off by Sauron because Sauron wanted the new ring. I could see he wouldn't be dominated if he cut them off. But where Eltariel is at the moment, we do not know. Maybe we'll find out in the next DLC, the Blade of Galadriel or the Desolation of Mordor. The Blade of Galadriel DLC will be the most likely to find. But as we see in this content ladder, when we look at Eltariel's left hand, where she got two of her fingers cut off, and we can see that she has all of her fingers on the bad picture, so possibly the Blade of Galadriel will actually happen before the ending of Shadow of War and not after. So if Celebrimbor doesn't really have interest in Eltariel, and as far as he knows, Talion died decades ago. He left him dead after all. So he'll probably try to find a new host since he wants to get a hold of his new ring. But basically he wants to conquer all of Middle-earth, as he said in the Dark Lord mission in this game, and not in the DLC in the previous game, Shadow of Mordor. He's going to try and find a new host, try and conquer the Middle-earth from that, or in some really insane case he might just abandon his mission and go to the afterlife, to Valinor, but that's not likely. He wants to conquer the world in order to create order, as he says during the game. Talion asks him what he would do when Sauron is dead, to which Celebrimbor replies that they would just rise up another Dark Lord of some sort. The races of Middle-earth would squabble, and then some other evil dude would rise up. So he basically doesn't believe that he should just go to the afterlife. So far as we know, he has an agenda that is to conquer Middle-earth, to bring order to chaos. Now regarding the new ring. The new Ring of Power was forged in Mount Doom by Celebrimbor, where he puts his life force into the ring, just like Sauron did. Sauron could not be killed, because if you wanted to kill him, you had to destroy the One Ring. That's after all how he dies in the films Lord of the Rings. So Celebrimbor wouldn't go to the afterlife. He would still be stuck in Middle-earth. And if he was to die, the new Ring of Power would have to be destroyed in the place it was forged. Mount Doom. Now, a funny detail is that Gollum cannot crave the new ring because at this point he's dead when Frodo destroyed the One Ring. But basically, Celebrimbor will, like Sauron, try to find his Ring of Power, and in this conquest he might just try and find a new host, and that is how a sequel to Shadow of War is going to come to play. Now, Warner Brothers have said that they would not create a sequel to Shadow of War. That might just be a marketing trick. They'll probably do it if enough people request it. But basically, this new host will have other and new abilities that Talion and Celebrimbor didn't have, because this guy is a new person. And the upcoming sequel will probably be about Celebrimbor trying to find his new ring, and then we can see if he actually gets it and comes to full power, like Sauron would have if he got the One Ring back, or if Celebrimbor gets destroyed because the ring gets thrown into Mount Doom or something. What we do also know is that in the end of the true ending of Shadow of War, Shelob says that Talion died and that Sauron died, but she does not mention Celebrimbor. She just says that Talion died, but more about him later. So now Sauron is dead, and the curse that binds Celebrimbor to Middle-earth is gone. Basically, Sauron and Celebrimbor were one. Shelob refers and says to Celebrimbor that he's a part of Sauron, so Celebrimbor cannot go anywhere and not gain full power until Sauron is destroyed. And now that Sauron is dead, Celebrimbor now has more powers than before, and he can probably also take some kind of physical form just like Sauron. When you fight Sauron in the end of Shadow of War, Sauron is obviously manifested in some kind of body. He does not have the full force he usually has, because then he would have to have the One Ring with him. We also saw in that fight that Celebrimbor manifested fully, so Celebrimbor could do the same thing to some degree, because both Celebrimbor and Elthariel fought Sauron at the same time in that scene, as you can remember. And if Celebrimbor gets the new ring, then he will obviously, like if Sauron got the One Ring, Celebrimbor with the new ring would go to full power. But the new ring is gone. As we see, Elthariel loses her fingers and the Ring of Power goes to the ground. We see Sauron then dominating Celebrimbor instead of Celebrimbor dominating Sauron. But we also see the new ring going to the ground, but we don't see where otherwise goes. As far as we know, Elthariel had the ring last time we saw it. We can then ask, the new ring was just lying there. If Sauron got the new ring, we would have seen it. But he didn't, because he died later on. Obviously, the new ring disappears somehow, and it didn't like fall over the edge or something, because we can see that it lies right there on the ground. So why doesn't Sauron just take the new Ring of Power? It's literally in front of him. And even if it's gone, why doesn't he hunt the new Ring of Power unrelentlessly? Sauron is not the type of person who denies trying to get a new Ring of Power. So what happens to the new Ring of Power will probably be resolved in the next sequel to Shadow of War, but I don't think it will be in the Blade of Galadriel, because the Blade of Galadriel DLC will most likely happen during Shadow of War, before the ending. And the Desolation of Mordor also seems like a DLC that's going to happen in sync with Talion and Celebrimbor conquering Mordor. So I don't think we will find out what happened to the new ring before years. So now, will Celebrimbor become a giant eye like Sauron now that he doesn't have his ring? And if he gets his ring, will he then be corrupted by the power of Sauron and become a new Dark Lord? I mean, wouldn't there have to be balance in Middle-earth and all kinds of things? You know, the darkness has to be opposed by light, and the light has to be opposed by some kind of darkness. I mean, Celebrimbor did after all forge 3 rings of power that he didn't tell Sauron about. He could probably have his own kinds of Ringwraiths for himself if he was to become the new Dark Lord, or the new Bright Lord, you would say. So you can also say, in Shadow of War, Celebrimbor states, the new ring, our ring, is not marred with his shadow. It is perfect, which means that the new ring cannot corrupt men. So if that's how the new ring is, then maybe the lesser rings can still corrupt men, because they are not perfect. As we saw, the new ring can dominate Uruks. That's how we got to dominate Uruks in Shadow of War. Then there's the fun fact that the new ring, according to the in-game appendix, the new ring is not as powerful as the One Ring, but it is as powerful as the 9 rings. You know, the 9 rings that bind the 9 wraiths, Ringwraiths of Sauron. So maybe the ring will turn Celebrimbor into something of a Ringwraith. Or maybe whoever the host will be who gets to have the new ring in the Shadow of War sequel, maybe that guy will become a Ringwraith to Celebrimbor, and that's how he gets a hold of the ring or something. And about the sequel, you can say, Warner Brothers, as I said earlier, have said that the Shadow series is over. But I mean, why would they end it when there are clearly money to gain? I mean, microtransaction system was not as pleasing for them as they would have liked to, but they still gained a lot of money. I mean, I gave, I think, $80 or something for the gold edition of Shadow of War. I mean, Warner Brothers haven't exactly become poor by creating Shadow of War. Also, Monolith Productions said that this was the end of Talion's story, but they never said it was the end of Celebrimbor's. But enough about that. Now to Talion. Talion, you could ask, if he's so powerful, why didn't he just go and kill Sauron? I mean, we literally saw him at the gates of Sauron's tower, and he even invaded it and defeated Isildur. Why couldn't he just, with this ring he now has from Isildur that hasn't completely taken the control over him, why couldn't he just go and invade Sauron and defeat him? I mean, Celebrimbor and Talion were already going to try and kill Sauron, even though they didn't have the One Ring. So obviously he should be able to do something. But then you can say, maybe the Ring of Isildur was made in such a way that if Talion came too close to Sauron, he would be mind controlled or something. In any case, he couldn't kill Sauron without destroying the One Ring. And all Talion could achieve for the rest of his life, or whatever he is as a Ringwraith, all he could achieve would just be to have a stalemate, i.e. the armies of Mordor could just make sure that the armies of Mordor never exited Mordor. And that's what he does for decades, as they say in the end cinematic. That's also why there is an achievement in the end that you get when you beat the game. It's called Stalemate is Victory. It signifies that victory is just to keep the armies of Sauron at bay. Defeating Sauron does not seem to be a possibility. Now to the end of the ending cinematic. You see that Talion goes on a field where it's pretty bright and all kinds of things, and we see these buildings in the background. Now the theory is, from some of the forums on Shadow of Mordor, that these buildings are the halls of Mandos. And Mandos is basically the judge of the dead, master of doom. He's the guy who passes judgment for where the dead should go. So Talion will basically be judged should he go to Valinor, basically heaven in Middle-earth or something like that. And right now Talion is in the way station to either go to a Valinor heaven or somewhere else. Now it is important to note that Valinor is a place in the elven world of Aman, which is this giant island west of Middle-earth, where the elves go when they're about to die. But then you could also say, if he's dead, why is his wife and his son that we see in the beginning of the first game of Shadow of Mordor not there at the place? Maybe his son and wife have already been judged long ago, and now they have been shoved further into the system of wherever humans now go when they die. What we can say is, if Talion was alive and he was walking on a field, he probably wouldn't drop his weapon and his armor in the middle of nowhere. So he probably is somewhere in the afterlife, waiting judgment from this Mandos. Mandos is one of the 8 greatest lords of the Valar, and the Valar are basically angelic beings. They were sometimes worshipped as gods by men, and they are in the category right below the one god of Middle-earth, called Eru. But maybe there will be some references to that in the upcoming sequel to Shadow of War. I don't have anything confirmed, but I'm saying they probably are going to make a sequel. Because why wouldn't they? Why would they deny a chance to make more money? So, anything I missed, tell me. But where, you may ask? In the comment section. But do you want more content like this? Maybe you should subscribe. But you want even more notifications of this? Then maybe you should click the notifications bell in this comment section. And Facebook, Twitter, follow, like. These are all random words that make no sense. But maybe you should check them out anyway. Maybe you should check out my Facebook page in the video description below. And I'd love to hear your input on what I should do next of theories and such. Did I miss anything? Was what I said a load of junk? Tell me in the comment section. I'll make sure to answer. That was all for today, guys. May you have a lovely day, and we see you next time.